make better applications at scale. So that's the first one. The second is the amount of data sets that are put in there, because it takes some effort for people to get data sets in.
Okay.
So if they do that, they find some value in it, so that's good. And third is the amount of applications that are made on top of those.
Okay. Since we opened up questions, maybe one or two from the audience while we're setting up here. No, we'll have lots of time for questions at the end. Yes, please.
Okay, so amazing presentations from Frank
Yes, go ahead.
and Usman. Sorry. As I was introduced as a user experience designer, my job mainly involves understanding user behavior, and based on that behavior, we can then construct what is a good user experience. This guy's not me. We'll talk about him in the end. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about user behavior and a little bit about user experience, and we'll see how these two link to the smart cities that we are in today. Now, user behavior is obviously like, I mean, we all of us behave in a different way in different situations, right? I mean, we go to a restaurant, we see, let's say for example, McDonald's, we see cool, beautiful menus over there, and what we don't know is that, you know, our decisions of buying food actually is driven by the way they are presenting that information to us. It's very much, you know, dependent on the environment. So like, you know, I mean, the question is that how do we behave different in different situations? Like, you know, what affects our choices, and do we always know as to what we are choosing, and are we making right choices or not? And this has to do a lot with how we are presenting the information, the data, and then we are given the options to choose from. So in order to understand this, what I'll do is I'll share a couple of examples with you. These two examples are totally non-technical. One is a bit emotional and the other is more retail-oriented example. So one of my favorite studies is organ donation rates. Now, as you can see here, there are like, you know, two main sets of countries. Countries on the left have registered very little interest in donating the organs, and on the right they have registered a lot of interest. Obviously these are the figures that are for people who have registered the interest, not necessarily that they have made a donation. Now the question here is, why do you think that countries on the left have such a less interest in donating their organs after they die? And when this question was asked to students, they gave reasons like you know, I mean, well, before that. So when we give gifts in real life, I mean, we know that, you know, the person we are giving a gift to, you know, making him happy, you know, we can see emotions in them, we can feel good about it, that yes, we've done something good about it. But when we ask students about, you know, why they thought that those countries were poor in terms of giving donations, they gave reasons like there could be cultural differences, maybe, you know, religious differences, you know, personal beliefs, or, you know, how we care about the person that we see in our society. I mean, how much we care about it. I mean, do we actually want to do something for someone when we die or not? So the interesting thing here is to, like, you know, I mean, we could argue that, okay, fine, there is a lot of cultural difference between these countries, you know, and they differ in many ways in terms of population and so on and so forth. But there are two countries which I think are worth looking at in this discussion, that is Netherlands and Belgium. And these two countries are, like, you know, close to each other. They are not very much different from each other in many sense. Then why do you think the Netherlands has such less interest in giving organ donations? And actually, what Netherlands government did was they ran a campaign, and in that campaign, what they did was they sent, you know, a lot of posts to citizens and asked them that, why don't you register yourself? Give us some of your organs when you die. They ran television campaigns. They do something about it. They, like, you know, I mean, had all the information broadcasted on radio and everything. And they actually went even further than that. They had a reality show which they had to can. And what that reality show did was they, so a person who is terminally ill would come on the show and will choose the contestant who is winning to donate one of his organs. So that government actually went to that extent, and, you know, we could say that, you know, I mean, they must have spent a lot of money here, right? I mean, posts, you know, television ads, and, you know, running a reality show, it's a lot of expense. So,
you know, it was a hoax, huh?
Yeah. so what do you think Belgium did to achieve that higher rate of organ donations? And we could think that they spent a lot of money, but in reality, they actually did not do anything. They just did one little thing, and we'll look at that, what little thing is. So this is the form that the countries on left presented to users, to people to fill in. And what it says is that check the box if you want to participate in the organ donor program. And as we are lazy human beings, what we did was we did nothing. And ultimately, the result was that we did not join in that. Whereas the countries on right, they presented the same form with a little bit difference, which is check the box if you do not want to participate in the organ donor program. So they basically tricked people in donating their organs. And it actually worked. So we were supposed to click there, check mark, we didn't do that, being lazy. And as a result, we ended up joining the program. Now, if you see what we actually, I mean, this is a very common scenario, and we know this in our real lives as opt-in and opt-out. So what actually happened here, and what influenced our decisions? And this kind of like choice, presenting a choice in front of a user is called choice architecture. We call it choice architecture, and our decisions are as an overview are based on the environment. In this case, the environment was a form that was presented to the user. It also depends on defaults. Like one option was made default, that, and the default in this case was that don't do anything, right? We did not do anything, and we were enrolled in something that we don't know. And the other bit is complexity, that how complex the situation is, how complex is your choice making. You could again compare it with the restaurant thing. I mean, if you go to a restaurant, especially Indian restaurants, when you have a huge menu, you're like, oh, what am I going to do about it? Like, I mean, do I have this? Do I have that? They all look similar. They're in one section. What do I do? But whereas, like, if you go to my favorite restaurant, is burger and lobster. You just have 3 options there, right? So the complexity of the choices that are presented to us make our lives difficult, in my opinion. And what we do is we take the path of least resistance. So this was one example. And now I'll move on to the other example, which was a study done in a retail store in California. And what they did was that it was a huge store, and imagine that a lot of aisles there. There's one aisle where you usually don't stop. And what they did was on different days they put a stall of jams where they would allow users to taste jams and buy if they like it. And what they did was they basically had a few days they put 6 jams, gave them 6 choices. A few days they gave them 24 jams in choice. Now, what happened is, so what we'll do is we'll look at 3 things what happened there. In terms of approach, how many people approach those stalls. So in case of 6 jams, it was 40% people who approached that. In case of 24, it was 60%. So because it was a big stall, you saw a lot of colorful stuff, a lot of people, there. They said, oh, fine, yeah, let's go to it. Let's see what it is. In terms of trying, so it was not much difference in terms of trying. One person tried 1.4 to 1.5 jams at an average to see what they like. Now, the most important bit here is buying. How many people actually bought a jam? And these are actually very interesting figures. So in case of 6 jams, 30% people bought it. And in case of 24 jams, only 3% people bought the jams. So again, the story here is that, in case of 24 jams, the choice was made very complex for them. Because, on that study and report, it was also said that when you go for shopping, you have a few items on your list. And jam is the kind of item that hardly 3 people have on their list to buy. Now, of those 3% people, 24 jams could not attract them, but 6 jams stall attracted them, and they thought that, okay, fine, it is much more meaningful. I know that, of the 6 choices, it is very much easy for me to choose one, but it is very difficult for me to choose from 24. So that's the bit about defaults and the choice architecture that is actually presented in front of us. Now, I would like to cut this topic off here and move on to user experience, right? And what I think is that even though they are different domains, they somehow or the other relate to each other, because it's like same assumptions are actually used in user experience designing. We take user experience design as the next step after we understand who the user or the audience is of the application. Now, for example, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and startups, and they come to us and tell us that we want an application that looks amazing and has a very good user interface and is very easy to use. Fair enough, it's a very valid request. Everyone would want their applications to work like that. But what they do not foresee or understand, and that's why they come to us, is that user experience actually starts way before you start or you fire up an application on your device. And it ends way after you have stopped using the application, you have closed the application. For example, when you go and search for an app on the App Store, you flick through the names, you flick through the logos, you flick through the icons. I don't remember exactly the percentage, but there's a huge percentage that people actually decide to download their application or not to download their application based on the icon of the application and the screens that they see initially. So user experience actually starts way before that. Then there is a part where an app tells you, okay, fine, this is the tutorial, go through these steps and install it. Now, when you are done a lot of hand holding, at times it is necessary, but that is necessary because the experience of the user on that application is not going to be amazing. You need to teach him a lot, whereas you should not need that, and that creates a bad taste in users' mind. But so the point is that user experience is not just limited to one thing. It is about a lot of aspects of your journey: installing, using, deleting, so on and so forth. So in terms of the interface only, how something can be looked beautiful, something could be made to look beautiful or made to be easy to use. We can look at a couple of examples here. Like someone took this thermostat and made something like this, which is looking very nice and cool, right? Now, before we had ugly, I'm sorry if someone is using this at the moment, but ugly interface of Symbian and all, but then that was actually made look pretty by all these other new operating systems that we have these days. So it's all about combining what the user experience is with the choice architecture that we discussed before to the user and make the whole experience better. And this is where I would like to talk a little bit about smart cities. Now, there is a lot of information that we are presented in a very tricky way. We say, okay, fine, I agree to some sort of terms and conditions, and then later on we know that our data is collected. As Frank mentioned that users are the owner of data. They actually create the data, and we are the ones who would actually create the meaningful data that would then be used by all these APIs and programmers to create smart experiences for us, to create our cities smart. Personally, I think that smart cities depend on the data that you have, but presented in a smart way. Now moving ahead, I would like to talk about one thing. My time would not permit me to talk about a lot of things here, but one particular thing I would like to bring to your interest is about permissions. Now, who uses iPhone here, right? And who uses Android devices here? Fantastic. And who has experience of using or understanding both the platforms? Amazing. All right. So permissions is one thing that I would like to talk about here. When you install an application, you are asked to give your permissions to do something to the application, and they are asked in different ways. Now, on Android, it is like they just give you once a list of permissions that the application would need. You would just go through it. I have used Android and I never go through these permissions. I say okay, and I'm fine with that because I want to use the application, and I move on, right? Whereas on iPhone, what we see is that it does not ask you the permissions when you're installing the application, but then it asks you at every step. Do you want to allow access to microphone? Do you want to allow, like, you give your password for every app download? Do you want to actually allow, for example, an application to access your location, so on and so forth? So now these devices are very smart, and when we allow them to do something with our data, that data actually feeds into the data that our developers use for developing experiences for us. Now, what bothers me personally is that are we actually comfortable giving that data away, right? Are these ways of obtaining our permission doing justice with us? If I see that they are going to take my Wi-Fi location, why do they need my Wi-Fi location? Do we ask these questions to ourselves? And are they actually going to track me on every instance wherever I go, would I be actually like submitting my data to this application, and that the app owner or developer would know that, okay, fine, my user has actually been here and I need to do something about it. So now since we are talking about technology and we are talking about things that are happening automatically, now this device is in our pockets. When we use the application, we know that we are looking at it and we are using it, right? But there are a few things that this device does smartly but cunningly when it's in our pockets. Now another topic that I would like to talk about a bit is iBeacon. How many of us know what an iBeacon is? A lot. So I mean, just by the way of a very small introduction of iBeacon. iBeacon is actually a Bluetooth device that just transmits a unique ID, and it is possible for our application developers to obtain that ID and do something about it. Now, wherever you place the iBeacon, whoever has placed it there knows the location, the physical location. It's a physical device. They know the physical location of that device where it is placed. And if a developer implements something in the app, even though that app is in your pocket, see, up till now we discussed the scenarios where you actually fire up an application and you share your stuff. When the application is running, it shares your stuff. But in this particular case, it is going to share the location, your physical location, invisibly. The device is in your pocket. You don't know when it is sharing the information with the server. And then based on this information that is shared, the developer would then choose what content to serve to you. Now let's say, for example, you enter a utility store, or let's say you enter a garment store, an iBeacon is placed over there. The device would know that you are there. The device would send the information to the server. Okay, fine, this guy is there, and then you would probably receive an offer based on your data with the developers on the cloud. That, okay, fine, now hey, this guy was looking for a shirt before. I have amazing offers now. Let's see if he wants another shirt, and I'll see an ad on my device and I'll interact with it. And that is good. There's nothing wrong with it. But the thing is that we do not have control on what happens with our data. And unfortunately, that data is needed for our cities to be smart. Now, let's assume a scenario that you are in buying a shoe in a shoe store, and assume that you can see a small camera in front of every single pair of shoe, and that camera is actually looking into your face. How would you feel about it? Would you feel comfortable shopping? No. But the same thing can actually be achieved by these kind of smart devices, that they are placed hidden. They are not visible. They are still there. You are carrying your mobile device. You walk around and you see, and that rack knows that, okay, fine, this guy is looking at these shoes. Should I actually show him a message, or just take the data online? Another example could be, let's say, in boots. Now you have multiple aisles in boots. Let's say one is food, for the sake of discussion. The other is pregnancy. And the third is, let's say, some medicine for backache, painkillers, right? Now, you as a user have Boots app. Boots have implemented beacons in all these aisles. You walk, you buy some food, then you go to pregnancy department, you buy some pregnancy-related medicine, then you go and buy some backache medicine or something from a stall. So whoever is reading your data would know that you are lazy, cannot cook, your wife is pregnant, and you need a masseuse. And they would probably send you some offers related to these things. Right, so I'm not sure how you would like to receive that offer, and I think as being a technology advocate, it is our responsibility to control control the data that we give away. Next time when we sign up for something, I think I would strongly urge that we read those things, and we control how smart our city gets. And in the end, so yeah, this slide, this guy, this is a cow herder. He has his cows. He is in London, and what has happened with him is that he has been spotted by a camera, and he has just received a notification that your cows are blocking our roads. Pay us the £35 now, or cancel to pay £70 later. And this is smart city for this poor guy. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.